This is the market update. I have great news. All you need is a plan because this market is going to come right to you. What does that mean? Let me explain. There are coins that you can buy right now. Right now. A lot of them in the layer one universe. We detailed it in a new video in our YouTube member area, but don't worry, I'm going to help you out right now. You got stuff that you can just buy and, let them come get you. Come stop me out, right? This is probably going to keep grinding and grinding and grinding higher. Everybody's going to wait for the dip they saw in August. They may not get it. The low may be in. You may not see a dip until you see FOMO. And of course, we're nowhere's near FOMO. Nowhere near it. So you got a lot of fantastic news. And then all of a sudden, the headlines start changing. Like, first it was like, whales are selling Bitcoin. Now Glassnode reports that, whales are longer than ever. MicroStrategy is raising its dividend, meaning its interest payment, in effect, on the instrument it used to borrow Bitcoin because it wants people piling in to those instruments. Now, you're also maybe wondering, why does MicroStrategy have to offer people more money, to buy their debt, essentially? Well, that's because the yield on Treasury bonds, the interest the market is charging Uncle Sugar, continues to rise. But again, it's more good news. Crypto doesn't really care. They don't. Crypto was down in August because market makers took advantage of thin conditions to try to push the market down to get their inventory that they just sold to Michael Saylor. All this stuff. Oh, everyone's selling Bitcoin. Really? Michael Saylor bought it at 110. Last I looked on my screen, it's holding at 111. There's a bid at 110. You know who it is? The guys who sold it to Michael Saylor. They're trying to get their inventory back. Sorry, not right this second. Now, what does that mean? It means there's serious strength and there's a serious bid underneath the market. Now, they can always manufacture something. There can be stuff that comes out of nowhere. I have a great idea. Who cares? Who cares? You can dump overhyped coins. If something has 3x'd, let it come back down, bet on a retracement. If stuff hasn't moved and you think it's got nowhere to go but up, ETH might be a case. I mean, like I said yesterday, there may be more than one ETH dip, but is anything really going to stop Ethereum and Solana? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think one of the reasons for this is that this whole Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana treasury company, like I see the Winklevoss twins. The Winklevoss twins are at it with a treasury company in Europe. It's not going to stop. Basically, it's just people holding foreign currency or making foreign exchange bets at this point. They're not buying $40 million market cap meme coins. They're buying different forms of currency. It's happening. I mean, there are lending protocols in crypto. One of them is going public. FIGR technology. And we cannot find a real-world asset lending protocol that we don't like. Clearpool is one we're looking at. We were looking at Metal yesterday on the YouTube member live stream, which is like a podcast where we actually pick small coins, go over our reports. It's kind of like a one-stop shop. So, maybe you want to check that out. I don't know if there's a join button here, but feel free to support the channel. And the most bullish news of all. Can you guess what the most bullish news of all is? Ready? The Ethereum Foundation is selling 10,000 Ethereum. And you're looking at your phone and you're going, wait a minute. How is Ethereum selling Ethereum bullish? when a company gets bearish its own stock, when a company lays people off at the bottom of a decline or a drop in the stock or the company's earnings, that's the end. And even in an up move, they're still bearish. In other words, you know, they want their $40 million now. They can't wait, even though everyone says ETH's going to 8K. They're like, no, we got to sell now. Really? So you couldn't deposit your ETH and you couldn't deposit your ETH and borrow against it? No, you got to sell. They're bearish their own coin. Otherwise, they would just deposit it somewhere and borrow against it. They're afraid, like all the Bitcoin guys were last week. I was like, oh, wow, this is too lofty. You know, the last time we didn't sell at 4,000, we had to watch it drop to 1,800. We can't handle that. This is one of the reasons why, believe it or not, if you want to make a great trading firm or you need a trading buddy, get an 18-year-old. Get an 18-year-old who isn't scarred by the last bear market or the last thing that went down. The kid's going to go, wow, they're going to sell all that Ethereum. Here's another side meaning. Okay. They're selling it to SharpLink. Maybe this is more bullish because SharpLink couldn't get the liquidity to buy 10,000 ETH in the market without moving it to 6,000. There isn't enough liquidity in ETH. You have to go to ETH Central to get 10,000 Ethereum. What's going to happen when normies pile in? You know, you do realize that there is a huge component of ETH DeFi. You know, some stuff didn't move, and that's kind of an indication of like maybe meh. Some stuff you want to buy the dip, and some of the stuff that didn't move, you want to pick up. Now, we help you sort all that out, but you know, anyone out there who thinks that they've missed the Ethereum trade, no. You missed the Ethereum normalization trade, but you have not missed anything, particularly since there's all this, I don't know, strange news in all the geopolitical arenas, all the political arenas, all the economic arenas. And I can give you a conclusion from the YouTube member podcast, which, you know, Ace Crypto Goddess Toby Ward says, you know what, big boy, I know you originally came from Legacy, but feel free to stop talking about those things because they don't matter. They don't matter for crypto. What matters for crypto is that Legacy has serious problems. And beyond that, that's all she wrote. And they can try to shake the tree or not. I mean, like, you know, Canada's in a recession. There's all this talk about the trade war and the tariffs. You know, it's going to be a recession any minute. I completely disagree with that. The definition of a recession is way outdated, as is all the rest of our economic data. You know, you may have some sticky inflation, like prices aren't going to come down. Job market's terrible. Again, perfect for crypto. They can't manage their foreign exchange. They can't manage the value of their currencies. They have social disorder. Right? And when you hear these things in the podcast, right? Like I hear these things and I'm just like, and then I just go back to my desk and I look at my trading view and I go, what's the problem again? What was the past problem? Like what happened in August? Do you remember? I mean, maybe it's because I'm old. I don't remember. I was like, oh my God, cycle top, whale selling. It's over. Wrong. Right? I mean, you know, Gemini is going to IPO at a $2 billion valuation. That's very interesting. So Gemini is a very small exchange relative to Coinbase, but it could get much larger very quickly. I think some of these crypto companies that are IPOing, they're cheap when they IPO. And you could see them 2 or 3x. I mean, Circle 10x'd. And what happens when you have crypto equities start rallying? What happens when you have crypto equities acting more bullish than crypto itself? Well, it's very simple. Everyone goes to sleep. No one pays attention in crypto. Everybody ignores the 10 coins, you know, that we talked about, like the buy, sell, hold. We have a new video out, so you can see like the strategic importance of holding some cryptos and waiting for dips in others. I mean, can you name 2 cross-chain coins? This is not the typical social media. Let me talk down my nose at you, because I have figured these things out. We found 2 of them, right? You know, we got one old school one. That's Rune. You know about that. They had problems. I can't believe they're not going to be back, because Solana, Solana shows no interest in wanting to go below 200. So everybody in a far off land is going to be like, well, what do I do? Well, get to a chatbot and ask it about cross-chain. Right? Get some research somewhere. This, think about this. A crypto lending protocol is going public. That is the big headline today on Coinbase. So a company that lends crypto to a market that has done nothing. Bitcoin has done nothing this year. Nothing. I mean, it started the year at like 100, 110, 105. It's now at 110. ETH just unwound the total stupidity of its underperformance. Really, in 2025, what has happened here? Nothing. Everyone's like, this is going to be a much longer crypto cycle. That was yesterday. And that's true if it's not a cycle, right? And crypto is money. Now, we've also discussed on last night's live stream that, you have a compressed period of time. You're going to have a compressed cycle where you have to get involved, which is why we can't stop publishing across Patreon, YouTube. I mean, we just can't stop publishing because we want people in now. I mean, I know every YouTuber says this is the last dip, right? Right before it dips more. I want to talk about this being the last dip when the market is stable or moving higher, right? And if it does dip, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, another funny idea. They were selling XRP 2 days ago, like below 280. Yet when you go to what's called an options platform, in this case, Power Trade. So the options market is where people spend a finite amount of money to make a bet that the price of the coin will cross a certain price. You have all kinds of choices, and the game is the price has to go there before your little bet expires, because your bet is on a timer. Now, the good news is when you buy these things, you can only lose what you paid for it, even if the coin goes to zero. So that's catchy in that way. But of course, the trick is you got to get the timing right. Well, wouldn't you know that this whole idea of a potential year-end alt season is now in the news? Why? Because they're betting on it in the options market. Solana, XRP, the Trump meme coin, hype, Link. Don't know a cross-chain coin? How about Chainlink? Do you realize the build out? I mean, I spent all day doing this. Models come out with coins. What's the market cap? 70 million. What's the market cap? 50 million. Do you realize in 2021 that when I worked at this company and we would have these meetings about small coins, it got to a point where guys were like, yeah, you know what? I'm not touching this out of the gate because it's coming out at a $1 billion market cap out of the gate. Okay, that's when it got excessive. Now you have AI, cloud, data infrastructure, privacy, lending. You have all of this stuff that's trading sub 100 million. A lot of stuff we found sub 50 million. We discussed a $40 million market cap hot layer one, along with 2 gaming coins yesterday on the podcast. Now, okay, I get it. You're looking for some alpha. You want some alpha? If you can find a $50 million market cap, layer one, I don't know, man. You can use our research. You can try to use Banter Bubbles or CoinGecko. If you find something and you go, hey, you know, layer ones are going to get used by both humans and AI agents. So, I mean, if you're in like a meme coin, or you're in something that, you know, the spirit of gambling, or something that, you know, you got a lot of hype out of, you know, there was like a Bitcoin staking protocol, Merlin, right? There was a cross-chain play. I think the symbol was MEV. You know, some of these things had huge rallies. Like the market is rallying from the bottom up. There are coins that are smoking, that are telling you what's going to happen in certain sectors. Right now, it may pay, if you happen to own one of those coins, to rotate out of it. And if you don't have one of those coins, find another coin from that sector and go think about it. Because September is clearly shoot your shot month. We also have a repeat of what happened the last time. In other words, the crypto market is doing pretty good, right? And ironically, it's being led by Bitcoin Cash. Now, generally speaking, sometimes when Bitcoin Cash does really good, the market doesn't do as well. But guess what? Bitcoin Cash is moving and the market is just fine. Huh. Are things a changing? If things were ever going to be different, they would be different now. Actually, they're not different. It's like it could be another 2017 warning, because Bitcoin Cash rallied for quite some time before ETH took off. So, for example, ETH took off really, right? ETH took off like July 4th. That was the big holiday surprise. Bitcoin Cash on July 4th, okay, had been rallying for 2 months. The bottom in Bitcoin Cash was at 250 in April, and it had been trending higher right before something went. Now, leading indicators, the things that go first in a bull market, it's always the stuff that no one likes. No one wants it. No one thinks it's any good. They, you know, what goes first? The speculative stuff, the stuff people don't know how to buy, that they don't understand, or they just hate. Bitcoin Cash matches at least 2 of those criteria. And what's amazing is XRP is still at 286, which was our original buy zone on a correction. ETH is at 4,300. That was also inside the buy zone that we had for Patreon. And Bitcoin, we had 109 to 111. You know what I'm saying? Like, this stuff is fine. It went exactly where it was supposed to go. It scared you. And now, I don't know, they may do something like force people to FOMO in. And then I don't know what happens after that, but it's very clear that it's got this like grinding bid. Because I realized this, I'm like, all right, well, you know, we can talk about like what to add later, which we did, right? You know, coins to do now, coins to do later, coins to get out of. This thing has a grinding bid to it, and I can feel the fear of missing out percolating like in Sui. What is going to stop any layer one and any layer one from smoking higher? Especially since a lot of these things, you know, they had money coming out of it. Like there was a lot of people that FOMO'd into Sui, just as an example, at $4.50 or at $4, thinking it was going to $5 and was going to make a new high, and then they dropped it to $3.20. Has anything changed in Sui? Nothing changed but price and people's attitudes. In other words, this was one of the big speeches, which, you know, you have to watch the podcast to get it. You know, Michael says, why are you not so fun to listen to? Dude, I am so fun to listen to you, and I'm really glad that you are hating on me, because you can't get anywhere on YouTube unless people hate on you. So we would like to welcome all the people who like me and all the people who don't. All right. Crypto Crazy is here. We have Down Under in the house. Chase Wright, Huvin, a new name. Mojo, T-Bone. Oh my God, Nicole's here from Italy. My grandfather emigrated here from northern Italy, and he married a woman from the UK who was here in the United States. And that was how my father got here. A little trivia. So hello to our friends in Italy. I understand Milan is about to become the financial center of the entire world. Solana continues to outperform Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance is at a low. What does that mean? That means don't underestimate what Bitcoin can do. I think the entire planet thinks Bitcoin is dead. Now, obviously, we know the upside is somewhere else, but it'd be kind of funny if Bitcoin went to 115 this week. There's some big chart resistance from Gann work and Lux Algo. I want to say it's near 113. Yeah, it's 113. The top of it, the real resistance is at 113, 113.5K. So if Bitcoin can do a reclaim after flushing people out the way they did, man, you got to look out. You got to look out. And, if I shared the screen and you saw, all of that red ink, all of that negative volume. I mean, you got negative volume, you got a 10% correction in Bitcoin, and then it just stopped dead. Like, oh, yeah, 107, the end of August. Want to know what price action means when you have like illiquid market conditions, when no one is around? It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. So everyone assigned beating to that whole decline at the end of the month. It doesn't mean anything. Now they're watching the market go up and they're like, this is interesting. What does this mean? Well, bro, it means, the last dip is on the horizon. Maybe. Eclipse volatility could mean upside volatility if this gets away from people. Even with the market going down last week, Eagle King, the producer, sent me an article saying that money was still flowing into digital asset funds. Now, what does that mean, you're asking? Well, don't go anywhere, and I'll tell you. When you have institutional money, right, because that's who gives money to crypto hedge funds, large individuals, family offices, mutual funds, anybody who can have a relationship with a hedge fund, they're like, oh my God, we got to get long crypto. We got to get long altcoins. How does a large institution get long altcoins? Do they open up KuCoin and they just, go to the market and just get some? No, they give the money to a hedge fund, and the hedge fund has to invest in altcoins or in whatever crypto is moving the fastest, usually altcoins. Now, what happens if hedge fund one buys the stuff that's doing really well, or buys something that comes up and goes up out of nowhere, and hedge fund B misses it? Well, that's what starts the chase. In other words, when that institutional money comes in, when the market is down, those hedge funds aren't going to sit on that capital because it's not a bear market. And even if they're young, they know that, because they know if this market goes back up and they underperform it, they're not a hedge fund anymore. These big characters want to give their money to the guys who get it. So they cannot afford to miss anything. So if you're wondering, gee, why is this market just kind of like, a little bit of dip back up, a little bit of dip back up? That's the digital asset flows. In some ways, they probably want a dip, which is why they're not getting one. Yav is like, yo, buy the lows in XRP. I can't believe I saw like a Litecoin guy hating on XRP. I think the difference between Litecoin and XRP is XRP has a larger retail following on YouTube. Of course, the real difference is that XRP has a giant company behind it, a business development group that can do deals. So hopefully they're hard at work getting the deals that propel their IPO. But that candlestick yesterday in XRP engulfed like 3 or 4 days worth of down action. And the puking in XRP, like I said, there was like puking going on in Bitcoin. You had the most extreme puking in XRP that you have seen, okay, since XRP traded at 40 cents. So it's the last time you saw, the kind of red on red Lux Algo volume selling heave. Can you believe it? I can. I can because everyone's headed for the door. Oh my God, somebody from XRP sold at 3. So what? So what? What happens when they attack the old highs, which can be anywhere from, $2.70 to $3? What happens if they bang on those levels and it doesn't crack? Is anyone asking these questions? Like, what happens if XRP starts to outperform Bitcoin like all these other layer ones did? It's a complete lack of curiosity. Like, every article is about, all the articles, all the ones that get headlines, like, Bloomberg's like, oh my God, the bond market. Everything in legacy is like, oh my God. The solution to oh my God is crypto. Every single time. Like this year and last year. And they can try to scare you out of the water. I don't think anybody cares anymore. I really don't. It's just a question of how long it takes for people to discover that there's an undervalued altcoin universe out there. E double says, who likes Aerodrome? Dude, everyone likes Aerodrome. Right? Aerodrome rocketed up because Coinbase is going to finally utilize the base network. It was the hottest thing in ETH DeFi on the way up. And if you get a dip, you got to get after it, because that's the thing about Aero, right? It can be wild. Everyone FOMOs in and then they drop it. Aero's probably going to $2. And the thing that's funny is Aero is probably not going to be the biggest mover in ETH DeFi. It probably isn't. Right? I mean, obviously it's going to move, but you have to consider the rest of ETH DeFi. You have to ask yourself, what else is going to go up if ETH goes to 8,000? Right? Nick Phillips says, still got faith in a black hole somehow. Sir, that's very true. Most altcoins are in an absolute, they're in the abyss. The whole sector, the whole thing has just been completely ignored, right? It's like Texas Honey Badger says, Bitcoin's got one more burst of juice left. You know what, dude? That's all they say. That's all they need. You need Bitcoin to do something that people say Bitcoin can't do. If Bitcoin made a marginal new high, do you have any idea how hard this market could rally? Buy the dip LLC says, why are you so mad, bro? Bro, am I mad? I got my cruise ship shirt on here. Dude, I'm chill. I am doing fine. I just talk into the microphone. It's a little early, but I am so chill. And if you're from overseas or you're from the United States, I would like to welcome you to the show. We do the show every day at 8 a.m. Eastern time. We like having our friends, right? Nick Phillips says, it's a black hole in DEX and DeFi on Avalanche. Dude, I see. I'm sorry. Black hole is a project. My bad. Okay. But it's also true that if you look at a lot of projects, they're dead. They're dead. Now, again, trading on Avalanche, I've said a million times when it came out, I wish I had the recordings. I just remember of all these analysts I used to work for, all these these guys are all Masari. These guys are all high-end places now. Right? When these guys would do reviews of these projects, right, they would talk about how fast Avalanche could move. They had multiple chains that could be used for security tokens. I mean, think about it, right? Somebody goes, hey, black hole, the market's in a black hole. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of in a black hole, and it's a project. I just learned something new, and so did you. Because if you don't think artificial intelligence, maybe humans don't have the curiosity to expand and look at these different DEXs, what's going to happen when the institutions do it? And what's going to happen when the AI agents do them? You realize that is going to happen in 2026. Most likely the late December hype could be some sort of moment where, you know, an artificial intelligence system does something on the blockchain. People think that catalyst doesn't exist. It exists. It's just not obvious yet. And the beautiful thing about September, and the beautiful thing about this market being relatively stable and people kind of in a state of sort of disbelief, that works in favor of anybody who thinks this market can go up and do a traditional cycle in 3.5 months. Right. In other words, everybody says when it's going banana zone that they should have bought it when it was down or it's quiet. Folks, it's down and it's quiet. Right. You don't want to buy or sell the quiet market in, say, August. But in September, you want to get after any disruption you can, and small red quiet sideways days. I don't know. Maybe I would call those Ethereum days. And if you did get the dip in these sectors, like, you know, somebody was asking about AERO and all these other coins, I do believe that that is last chance shopping. SJ says depression creates compression. God, why didn't I think of that? Seriously, why didn't I think of that? Depression creates compression. That's the bigger the base, the higher in the space. The market is compressed, ready to be unwrapped and launched. And I don't know how many people are talking about it. I mean, there are guys talking about the low being in. Like, that conversation has like started to happen. Okay. But, you know, the low being in, and I'm going to wait, you know, don't say I'll wait to buy it lower. Say I'll wait for everybody to FOMO in, potentially. And then I'll grab whatever dip that there is, even if it's sideways. A lot of times with ETH, you have to grab sideways dip. Okay. All right. Donato is here. What's up with Block? I don't know if we're talking a project. I will definitely look into that. I appreciate everybody being here. Kevin, Julius Max, new names, right? Leo is here. Welcome. Bob the Bruce, K9 Crypto, Chase Wright, T-Bone, what's up? Crypto Crazy in the house. Mojo, Baby Whale. We most certainly are live. Definitely appreciate everyone's viewership. Shelly showed up. What's up, Shelly Farmer Allen? People, don't forget to check out the YouTube member area. In the last 7 days, we've put 5 new videos in, ranging from 12 minutes to an hour. Patreon is also fully loaded in both tiers. We will see you tomorrow.